Hey Naturals, welcome back to Go Natural English. I'm Gabby, your American English fluency coach. Do you ever think about how you have to keep studying more and more, doing more and more to improve your fluency? Have you ever thought about how doing less might actually improve your English fluency more? And this concept applies to a lot of things in life, not just English fluency. But since we're here to improve your English speaking skills, that's what we're talking about, how to do less in order to be more fluent. So today we're talking about how you might want to stop using big, academic, complex vocabulary words and keep it simple to sound more fluent. Let me explain. One of the biggest mistakes that advanced English learners make is trying to sound very academic, using advanced words that we do not use frequently in conversation. I remember a time when I was teaching English in Japan and I asked my student, "How are you?" And she was a scientist. So she responded that her homeostasis was good. Homeostasis is a very scientific word, which she may have used in her work quite frequently, but in English conversation, as a response to "How are you?" this was completely weird. And I didn't want to laugh at her, but inside I was smiling. So this is not just about making small talk. This is about the fact that native English speakers on a day-to-day basis really only use about 1,000 words. Now, of course, this depends. It depends what field you're in. It depends on your education level. But let's just say that you're out and about, you're talking to your neighbors, you meet someone at church, or you go to an event, or maybe you bump into someone at the grocery store. Have you ever stopped and counted how many words you use? Well, I hope not, because that would be weird. But what I'm saying is, in these everyday situations, even at work, you generally are not going to use more than 5,000 words on an everyday basis. Now, this is different if you are presenting at a professional conference or if you are creating a report for your boss. This is where you use those academic words. But when you are just wanting to improve your fluency for conversation, keep it simple. If you want to speak English naturally, confidently, and fluently, this video will show you how. We'll explore why English speakers often avoid big words, what to say instead, and how you can sound more natural today. Here's the thing, I've experienced this as a native English speaker learning other languages. In my Spanish textbook, we would learn quite long words. But when I went to use them in conversation, people would look at me very strangely, like they'd never heard the word before. Maybe they understood it, but it just didn't sound natural. So here's the key. I'm going to help you understand when to use big words and when not to, when it's unnecessary. And also, if you've been learning big words in your English class, in your textbook, that's good, but you need to know the more natural or informal or casual equivalent to those words that you should be using in everyday conversation. A lot of English learners believe that the more complex and advanced your vocabulary, the more fluent you sound. But that is simply not true. That's not how native English speakers actually talk, even in a professional context. Real fluency equals clarity, confidence, and connection, not complexity. In fact, using fancy, overly formal words when simple ones will do can actually hurt your communication. Think about this sentence. I am endeavoring to commence my occupational obligations. Lots of fancy words. What does that even mean? A native English speaker would simply say, I'm starting work. Oftentimes, less is more when sounding fluent and communicating your points. Here are 3 reasons why native English speakers use simple vocabulary, and you should too. Number 1, it's more natural. Instead of saying, I'm famished, natives say, I'm hungry. We don't say, let me demonstrate. We say, let me show you. Simple words equal natural speech. When we want to make sure we're getting our point across, we're going to use a simpler word. It's just more efficient. Big words can confuse your listener. I'm not saying they're not smart, but if you use a more complex vocabulary word, it might not be normal or common for the situation you're in. It might sound awkward or even cold, like you don't want to connect with the person you're speaking with. Because when you use more complex formal language, it does put some space between you and the people with whom you're speaking. So when you use more common words, that forms a better connection with people. And third, it builds confidence for you. And when you're using simpler words, you're going to feel better about pronouncing them. You're going to feel better about using them because you know you're going to be understood. And that helps you to think faster in English too, because you're not trying to use the most complex, impressive words that you know. They're probably buried back there somewhere. But when you can use more common words more frequently, you think faster. So if you want to think in English, remember, keep it simple. Communication is not about sounding smart. It's about being understood. Let me share some common big words that English learners often use and more common words that native English speakers often use instead. Purchase, buy. Assist, help. Commence, start. Conclude, finish or end. A quick note on this, my English learners would often say, I'm finished when they finish their work. But a native English speaker would say, I'm done. So next time you finish a project, say, I'm done, and you'll sound more natural. Request, ask. Require, need. Reside, live. Consume, eat or drink. Comprehend, understand. Practice saying the simpler words out loud and make sure that your pronunciation is clear. And remember, it's better to speak more slowly if it's clear. When you start speaking faster, sometimes you skip over the important sounds in words in an effort to sound more fluent. But trust me, when you speak more slowly, more clearly, and enunciate, this will help your communication. Now, are big words always bad? Definitely not. You might be thinking, but Gabby, I want to improve my vocabulary. I want to sound smarter in English. Great. There is a time and place for that, not in casual conversation. If you're writing essays or reports in school or at work, if you're giving a formal presentation at a conference, if you're taking tests like the TOEFL or the IELTS, then by all means, use those complex, fancy words. But for daily conversations like networking, job interviews, or chatting with friends, dating, or other everyday situations, keep it simple. Simple English wins every time. A good rule of thumb is if a 12-year-old native English speaker wouldn't use the word, then don't use it in these everyday conversations. Okay, so I think you get it. It's time to do less with your English vocabulary for everyday situations. However, there is one thing that I highly recommend you do more of, and that is phrasal verbs. Because you might notice when it comes to verbs that native English speakers don't use the more formal verb, we use phrasal verbs. For example, give up, figure out, turn on. Phrasal verbs are essential to everyday conversation. When you're practicing English, practice short, clear sentences. So many of my students ask me, Gabby, how can I make longer, more complex sentences? And I would challenge you to keep it simple. Listen and repeat real conversations. And build your core vocabulary, the 1,000 most frequently used, most common words in the English language. If you would like a free bonus PDF guide, including the 1,000 most common words in the English language to start learning from and making sure you have this core vocabulary, then click on the link in the description and in the pinned comments. The same link will be there where you can click, send me your name and email address, and I will email you this PDF that you can print out or simply use on your laptop or smartphone to study the 1,000 highest frequency words in the English language. Remember, fluency isn't about showing off. It's not about proving that you have the biggest vocabulary. It's about showing up and connecting with people. Show up with confidence that you can communicate clearly and be understood with simple, short sentences. You don't need big, complicated words or sentences to impress people. And in fact, you'll impress more people if you sound clear, confident, and natural. All right, so come grab your free bonus PDF with the 1,000 most commonly used words in the English language. That link is in the pinned comments and the description. So come grab that to start studying and improving your natural English today. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.